I recently read an article that said young men are now raw dogging on airplanes, and that it's a good thing. Raw dogging on airplanes. Really? Hi, I'm Rick Higgins, and welcome back to The Journey. And yes, indeed, I have read this on several news articles, and they all say the exact same thing, that young people are raw dogging on airplanes, and everybody is perfectly cool with it. Well, despite being a mostly empty flight, I did manage to raw dog my way the entire time. It was really nice. I hope the next flight I get to do the same. Now, to me, ever since I was a wee lad, raw dogging meant... well, it meant something else, and I really don't want to get demonetized here, so it meant, it meant not using a balloon. It meant not... you know what it meant. So you can imagine my shock and surprise when I read that raw dogging is perfectly acceptable, nay, desirable, while sitting in the exact same place I was. Now, for those of you who are like me, let me explain. Apparently, this is just all the rage on TikTok. Now, imagine this. You were on a long flight. What do? Well, it's not what you do, it's what you don't do. You don't use an electronic device. You do not use your phone. You just sit there and think. You look out the window. Yeah, really, that's what raw dogging is these days. I mean, seriously, I kid you not. Raw dogging to today's youth means not doing anything, just sitting there. Well, that's actually a stretch. You see, they do turn on their phones, they do take videos of themselves, well, not using their phones, just looking out the windows. They post them on TikTok. Presumably, they also check their analytics and comments and all, but they're not on their phones. They're just sitting there, raw dogging. It's become like this endurance contest. Who can sit on flight, the longest flight, without doing a damn thing, without looking at their little device? I'm just hoping that they're okay. I mean, when they disembark off that plane, I worry about them. I mean, they've been sitting there for 5, 6, 7 hours, unconnected. But despite all of that, I am still very confused. Why did they choose the word raw dogging? I mean, that word of all other words, couldn't they have misappropriated, I don't know, tuna or sardines or any other word other than raw dogging? Now, I know, every generation uses words that the older generation just doesn't understand. In my day, it was cool. This is cool. That is not cool. My parents initially thought, what, is it not the right temperature outside? Do you want me to turn on a fan? Now, here's the difference. The older generation, the ones that came before me, they adopted our words. They learned to use cool. My 90-year-old father on his deathbed used the word cool. It's that ubiquitous. But for comparison, let's take the words of the millennials. Words like dope and sick. Apparently, by the way, they mean good or cool. But to me, if someone said my dope was sick, I'm thinking they had a bad trip from a bad supplier or something. Boy, dope and sick. 2 words, and work with me here. 2 words that are just not going to make it into common terminology. They're not, face it, Gretchen. Fetch is not going to become a thing. It's just not going to happen, okay? Whoops, we have a comment, and it starts with, okay, boomer. Okay, I need to set the record straight. That is not entirely correct. While yes, I was born in the last year of the boomers, I do not identify as one. I identify as a Gen Xer. My pronoun is dude. My pronoun is not sir or mister. I mean, I watched MTV, for God's sakes, when they had music. Okay, but I digress. Raw dogging. It's a word that I've used well over a dozen times in this video so far, and I can still hardly say it with a straight face because, well, I mean, am I supposed to say, hey, I raw dogged on the plane today? No, I am not going to say that. Not publicly, at least. So, what have we learned today, boys and girls? That some generations are better than others at coining phrases that last the test of time? Yes, indeed, we have learned that lesson. We have also learned that the youth of today find it very difficult to spend more than just a few minutes inside of their heads. It's apparently very painful. I mean, I can only guess at the agony of the vacuous emptiness of not having constant electronic communications. What in the world could they possibly be thinking about? Now me, I was on an airplane yesterday, 2 flights for instance, and I sat the entire time without my phone in my hand. I raw dogged both flights for hours, and I did sit there and I thought, And do you know what I thought about? I thought about raw dogging. Do you know which definition of the word I was thinking of? I'll leave you to decide that one. Be healthy, be happy, and we'll see you real soon.